today, Nancy again and I are both here today to talk about a very exciting program that's available for municipalities in the North Country. It is sponsored by NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, if you have not heard of them, so NYSERDA. And this is a second round of a program that had a very successful first round. They're calling this round the Leadership Round. Many of you are familiar with the program and have already become designated and taken advantage of grants in round one. So we're excited to explain to you what other opportunities you might have. If you are a first-time participant in CEC, we're happy to explain to you what you can do to take advantage to the incentives that NYSERDA is offering to promote clean energy measures. Next slide. So CEC, Clean Energy Communities, is very flexible. I've worked in many NYSERDA programs, and by far CEC is the easiest to work with, the most responsive, and the most exciting. It does allow for a fair amount of customization from the municipal needs perspective, which is really exciting. So baked into this program, there's flexible grant funding with no local cost share, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. Free coordinator support. This is where Nancy and I step in, and recognition for your community's leadership. So the recognition piece is pretty important to a number of our municipalities, and we greatly appreciate that. Next slide. There are a lot of benefits for becoming a CEC community. It creates pathways to lower your utility bills. And this could be for your bills for the actual municipality, but there are also several programs in the CEC approach that help your constituencies as well to lower their bills. And we're happy to explain what those are in a few minutes. It also can provide clean energy funding for projects, which again, we'll talk about. And we very much work very closely with contractors. And one of the really exciting parts of this program is that it spurs local green jobs. So for example, if you're doing an LED streetlight conversion or an LED interior lighting conversion, you're going to need a contractor to do that work. And those contractors exist and are out there, and Nancy and I speak with them on a regular basis. So there are many benefits to the program. Next slide. The biggest benefit, we think, of course, Nancy and I, the most exciting benefit is our availability to you for free consultation support, hand-holding throughout the entire process. We absolutely love working with municipal leaders and many champions who are in the municipalities that we're working with. We are available by email, by phone. Once we get into a post-COVID world, which we're hopefully heading toward, we are very mobile and happy to come to board meetings, sit at your table, talk to you, listen to you, and support you and hold your hand as much as we possibly can. That's a really important part of this program. We also have a suite of resources and toolkits to give you. This might include RFP templates, it might include resolutions, it could include grant documents to help you achieve the steps that are required to complete your CEC designation. We also can help you choose what are called energy actions, which we'll get into in a few minutes, that are right for your community. We will never sit in your office and tell you what you should or should not do, however. That is something we do not do. We really try to listen to what your needs are and maybe offer some advice here and there if you ask it, but we are not here to tell you what to do and what not to do. We can help you to present your CEC programming to your stakeholders. This might be helping to coordinate a presentation of some sort. Maybe you want to do a web presence. We can help you with how you communicate what it is you're doing to your stakeholders. We also are available to assist with your CEC grant applications should you get to that point. We can help you with the application process when it's relevant, but we also can help you identify what grant you might want to pursue in terms of a clean energy project. Next up. I basically said these things, but just to elaborate again, we're happy to attend board meetings. We frequently attend board meetings. We always appreciate hearing what's going on in your community. It helps us to understand your full picture. We will help you to complete the actions, which we're going to hear from Nancy in a few minutes, what that means. tools and analyses. I mentioned the tool part. The analyses part is that maybe you're thinking, oh, I've always wanted to do blah, blah, blah. Nancy and I are available with some information and calculators to help you make an analysis in terms of a decision that maybe when you really dig in, it is more helpful and more cost saving to go a different path based on some real numbers. Assisting with grants for actions. We discussed that. We can also help you find other financing opportunities. So this might come from National Grid or NYSEG, depending on what utility you're in. There also are some federal funds available. Nancy and I are constantly researching other opportunities to bring to projects so you can leverage every grant dollar that's available. And the last one, again, is a reiteration, but we can help you to submit the documentation that is required to get credit for your actions. Next slide. So here we are. This is Nancy and I are in the middle. The ghost person to the far right is our soon to be hired coordinator who will be working in Jefferson and St. Lawrence counties. We expect that person to be coming on board within the next few weeks, and we'll happily connect the appropriate communities to that person. Jared Bly is our director, our energy program director. You may see his name pop up here and there, but mostly you'll be hearing from Nancy, myself, and this soon to be announced person. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Bernstein, who would be happy to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Jen. Could you go to the next slide, please, Lexi? Great. So the leadership round, Clean Energy Communities Leadership Round. I think what we'd like to do the next bit of the webinar is to explain how it's different than round one for those of you who are familiar with round one, but also for those of you who missed out with round one, this will help you get started with this leadership round. There are $17 million in grants that New York State has awarded to this program. That's statewide. I don't remember the number that is coming just to the North Country, but it's significant. And the state wants to give that money out to municipalities, and so they're it's there for you over the next 5 years. But I will say it is a competitive grant system, so the quickest people into the gate still get the highest amount of money. But the program, besides offering grant money, it offers resources and toolkits, as Jennifer mentioned, step-by-step guidance through your Clean Energy Community coordinators, and leadership recognition. We're pretty pleased with the changes that have been made with the leadership round. So next slide, please. So how does it work? There are the high impact actions, as we've mentioned, and each of the high impact actions by themselves have a good impact on your community. So even if a community only does one high impact action, and that's the end of it, of their participation in Clean Energy Communities, that's still worthwhile because each action really can do a lot by itself. But as you complete each action, you earn points that can unlock the grants. And as you earn enough points, reach these thresholds, you can access the grant funding, which of course is what everybody is most interested in, and you can receive recognition. Next slide, please. So what's different is this point system. The points, there are 3 types of grants this time around. There are points-based grants, action grants, and designation grants. The points-based grants are up to $250,000 for large communities. So large communities in the North, well, everywhere in the state is over 40,000 in population. In the North Country, we only have 4 municipalities in total that are over 40,000 in population, and those are our 4 largest counties. Everybody else is considered a small or medium-sized community. So in a points-based grant, the maximum that you can earn is $100,000. Then there are these action grants. They are up to $50,000 for New York stretch, but that would be for the large community. Smaller communities are less. And then the other action grant is for community campaigns. And we'll go into the little details of what those actions are. And then the third type of grant is a designation grant. The designation grant is for completing any four high impact actions, and you get a $5,000 grant right off the bat. Next slide. So it's pretty simple. The more actions you complete, the more points you get. The more points you get, the access to grants that you get. And the nice thing about this leadership program is it builds upon itself, because as you do as you earn enough points, you earn some money. That money can be used for clean energy programs to help you earn more points, which will get you to the next threshold to earn more money, and so forth. And so it really can build on itself. And we see that as a positive step for this round. Next slide, please, Lexi. The high impact actions, they are clean energy actions that the municipality takes to reduce energy consumption. By doing so, they stimulate the economy. They earn you points and therefore grant funding. And as I mentioned before, you only have to complete 4 of these action items to actually earn your Clean Energy Communities designation and the $5,000 grant. Next slide. So, which high impact actions are right for your community? As you can see on this slide, there are 13 actions. It's a few more than there were for the first round. In addition, each action is kind of broken down into sub actions, or some of the actions are broken down into sub actions. So there's a lot of actions that that a municipality can take. Each high impact action could actually warrant a webinar in itself. So we're not going to go into extreme detail on each one. I'll describe, in brief, but I wanted you to notice a few things from this slide. The first is the different high impact actions carry different number of points. And this is a reflection on the value that New York State gives to each action. The second point that you should notice is that there are 2 high impact actions, the one with the yellow, that are different because they carry these action grants. Even if your municipality only completes, the action in itself, you can have access to an action grant. And we'll explain a little bit more as we go on. Next slide, please. So let's run through the different actions. Some of them might seem familiar to some of you on the call, and some of you might have even, your municipality may have already completed them. So the Unified Solar Permit. Adopting this standardized permit application is designed to streamline the approval process for installing solar in your communities. They're applicable to residential and small commercial installations that are less than 25 kilowatts. So these are mostly the smaller rooftop or smaller ground-mounted systems, not the big community solar or industrial kind of solar things, the smaller ones. Next slide, please. Energy code enforcement training. So the energy code, for those of you who are familiar with it, is a municipal building standard for energy efficiency. It's applicable to new construction and renovation of commercial and residential buildings. It's a mandated code for all of New York State. This training that would earn you 200 points in the program is free, and it's designed to improve the energy code compliance. So as long as at least one code official in your municipality attends the session, they're about 8 hours, then you complete the action. There are trainings that we're starting to schedule them, probably not until the fall. They will be in-person trainings, and because of COVID, they're a little delayed of when we have them on the books. So we'll let you know when that happens. Next slide, please. PACE financing. PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. And it's a program adopted by eligible local governments that allow property owners to pay back the cost of clean energy upgrades to their commercial or nonprofit properties over a term as long as 30 years. And these financing is secured through a benefit assessment lien on the improved property. So in the North Country, this high impact action item is only available to counties who have the authority to do so. But it's an interesting financing form that will be available as each county adopts it, and many of the counties in the North Country have done so. It will be available to commercial property owners throughout the North Country. Next slide, please. Clean energy upgrades. These are energy efficiency and renewable energy projects in municipal buildings and facilities. State programs can help get these projects accomplished with low or no upfront costs while generating net savings. So they're a real bonus to your municipality. Any upgrades, they must demonstrate a minimum of a 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions to call this action complete. They may also be accomplished, or this action may also be accomplished by enrolling in community hydro or community solar. So next slide. Clean heating and cooling demo. These clean heating and cooling technologies, such as air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps, also known as geothermal heating, they provide environmental benefits, energy bill savings, increased comfort levels, and health benefits compared to oil, propane, or natural gas. So the state would like to see municipalities convert a municipal building to a heat pump system that will demonstrate leadership in your community, and that would earn you the 500 points in this action. Next slide, please. 100% renewable electricity. This recognizes a local government's commitment to purchasing and retiring renewable energy credits, also known as RECs, through an ESCO that offers 100% clean, renewable New York State product. So this is different than community solar or rooftop solar. We'll be happy to explain that to you if it's something that it is of interest to your municipality. Next slide, please. LED streetlights. This is something that many of our municipalities are already undertaking, and we're really excited about this. LED streetlights reduce energy. They generate cost savings while contributing to a well-lit, safer, and more attractive community. Municipalities may choose to own their streetlights or work with their utility to convert to LED. Your Clean Energy Communities coordinators are available to help you decide which pathway works for you and to help make connections with your utility. Points are given for both Cobra Head or the roadway lights, or also they are given to decorative streetlights. That's new this round, is decorative streetlights earn you credit. Next slide, please. Okay, benchmarking. Benchmarking was very popular during round one. It's a policy that a local government adopts that requires the annual reporting of energy used in municipal buildings. Measuring and sharing data on building energy helps to identify opportunities to cut energy waste, and your coordinators are available to assist you with implementing this action. It's no cost to municipalities and really can serve a benefit over the long run. Next slide. Clean fleets. This represents two very related actions. One is to purchase or lease electric vehicles for your municipality, and the other is to install infrastructure, EV charging stations. And your coordinators can assist you with accessing grant opportunities and utility make-ready programs to help install EV charging stations. There's lots of money available right now for clean fleets actions, and we're happy to help you find those. Next slide. Climate Smart Communities. This is a New York State DEC program. It's some communities have already launched Climate Smart Communities. Others are, look at it and think, oh, this is too much for us. But it's a wonderful program. It guides municipalities' efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and build community resilience to climate change. So there are points systems in climate smart communities, there are point systems in clean energy communities, and they're not the exact same points, but they do relate to one another, and the two programs kind of work hand in hand. As you progress through climate smart communities, some of the actions for climate smart communities are the same actions for clean energy communities, and then as you reach the certain bronze or silver certification in climate smart communities, you get an additional points for clean energy communities. So they kind of work hand in hand, and we're available to help you figure out how that works. Next slide. All right, community choice aggregation. This is a little bit more complex, and like I said, this definitely can deserve its own webinar, and we may have one later on through the year as it feels like it's needed. But community choice aggregation, or CCA in short, it puts control of choosing energy supply in local hands by entrusting local governments to select where their energy comes from for their community. CCAs can have a huge impact on promoting clean energy by ensuring that a greater percentage of the electricity or supply comes from renewable sources. All right, there are 2 more action items that are unique from the others that we'll explain. Actually, I'll let Jennifer explain them because Jennifer is going to move on to speaking about our different kinds of grants. The other actions are the ones with that have action grants tied to them. So Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I guess we can move to this next slide as we do so.
Yep. Excellent. So before I dig into the grants, which is the super exciting part of this program, I just wanted to point out a few points. One, that some of you may be thinking, oh, well, we've already done that action item, and maybe you have not yet submitted your documentation to NYSERDA. That is something, there are definitely some actions that can be credited retroactively. So get in touch with Nancy and myself, and we'll explain later which between the 2 of us, depending on where you are, which one of us you should be contacting. But that's just something to keep in mind, that you may already be quite far down the road to getting grant funding on things that you've already done. So we're happy to help you walk you through that. We also have, as part of what we will offer you for support, are what are called subject matter experts. And we've already been hosting several meetings. The 2 most common are New York Stretch Code, which is a version of an energy code, and community choice aggregation that Nancy just discussed. So we have available free of charge subject matter experts who are neutral third-party entities that would be happy at any point in time to hop on a call with you and explain those programs in more detail. We may actually be offering some more formal trainings in the future, but in the short term, those folks are available at any point in time. PACE is the other one that is available. And the third thing I wanted to point out is that just as a word of caution, that some of you might have been contacted by a solar company who is looking to promote community solar. Those are legitimate companies and legitimate offerings. However, there are some steps that you would need to take in order to get your full credit through CEC. And some of those companies are not really familiar, and we would just hate for you to dive into something and miss out on an opportunity to get grant funding because of that action. So again, same thing, please reach out to Nancy and I, and we can walk you through the steps that you need to take to legitimize those efforts. So great, so diving into the grant opportunities, some of this is repetitious from what Nancy just said, but it's always super helpful to hear these things multiple times. This program can be a little confusing when you first start to get hit with it, which is now, especially round 2, but we can assure you that it really is not that complicated once you really sit down and break things down. So there are 3 levels of grants available in this round. The first is an action grant, which I'll explain in a few more minutes, a designation grant, and a point-based grant. And as a reminder, these are match-free grants, and I'll explain a little bit more detail what each one of them means in the next slide. So next slide, please. So action grants, there were 2, as Nancy pointed out. The first one is for a community campaign, and there are 4 different opportunities that you can apply a community campaign to. It includes community solar, which is different than last round, which was something called Solarize, which was credited community campaigns. This is a little different, where they're not looking to support a campaign that promotes rooftop solar or ground-mounted solar. It's a community solar, which is where an array is usually sited in a different location. It might be near your community, but it might also not be near your community, and your residents' businesses sign up for a portion of that array. So it is a little bit different than when it was in round 2. The second opportunity is for some sort of an electric vehicle campaign, and then we have clean heating and cooling campaigns. So there are points available, but you also would get grant money to support those efforts depending on the size of the campaign. So, and you are not required to be a CEC designated community to get these funds either. Next slide. So just a little bit more detail on how the community campaigns would be funded. So we can see that community size matters, and as Nancy pointed out, we really only have 4 large communities. Most of the folks that we would be working with would be a small to medium. There are a minimum number of participants required, 25 and 10, depending on the size. Grant amount, same thing, depending on the size of your community. And those grants on the small community size are available per region. So we really don't expect that they are going to be running out. There is a scoping document that is required to be submitted, however, before you can start your community campaign. So, and NYSERDA is being, not strict, that's not quite the right word for it, but they have some very clear things that they're looking for, mostly which is they're looking for clear municipal involvement. So we have that scoping document available as a template. We'll be happy to share it with you, and we'll be happy to help you complete it in a way that we think NYSERDA would help approve. Next slide. The second action grant is a New York Stretch Code, which again is it's an iteration of energy code. And we have a subject matter expert, Mike DeWine, who has already been meeting with several municipalities to discuss what New York Stretch is. It's a very high point action. You can also get money to support your efforts to adopt this code. And we can assure you that we understand code can be a challenging and complex issue to discuss, especially with your code enforcement officers who are already really doing a lot of work. However, the point of energy codes really at the end of the day is to save money and increase the comfort of people's homes. So Mike is happy to explain the process to go through New York Stretch. So those are the two action grants. And I also want to point out, as I'm going through this, if your head is spinning a little bit, that's very normal, very expected. There is a tremendous number of resources, and we're going to link you to the website at the end of this program through the CEC website. Lots of toolkits, lots of resources. It's well organized. It's clear to understand. So anytime if you want to peruse some of those pages, we find it extremely helpful. Okay, so the next slide, please, will be designation grants. Is the second category of grants, and these are so next slide, Lexi, please. Thank you, ma'am. And yeah, by the way, Lexi is behind the scenes, who is being the magic with the slides, and we so appreciate her being here to help us out. The designation grant is what you get when you complete 4 high impact actions, and from here it does not matter what those actions are. The points are irrelevant. It's if you get 4 done, then you are CEC designated. There's no levels of designation. You're just designated, and you get a one-time $5,000 designation grant. The application to get that grant is very straightforward and streamlined. And again, Nancy and I would be happy to help you with that. Next slide, please. So the third categorization of grants are point-based grants. This is a little more complicated to navigate. I'm going to explain in the next few slides how the categorization happens, but the general concept is that once you complete a certain action item, which Nancy explained earlier, you are eligible for a certain number of points based on whatever action that is. You collect those points, and once you reach a certain threshold, which is 3,000 points, you're eligible for grant funding. Next slide. And this is the way that looks. So again, we have a differentiation between our large communities and our small communities. We've got in the larger communities, we will work very closely with you because this is competitive on a statewide level. So if you think that you're interested in getting into that pool, it'd be really great to contact Nancy or I as soon as possible so we can really get you into the process. The small to medium, there's 40 per region on this scale. So you can, at 3,000 points, earn $10,000 if you're a small community. Next slide. The next threshold level up is 4,000, and at that level it's 20,000 points. And then next slide, please. The third threshold is 5,000 points, and at that level it's $70,000. So what's interesting about this structure is that these amounts can be cumulative. So if you start to think about that a little bit, there can be a strategy for how you structure and leverage these grant funds. You might have a project that's staged that you would like to build upon. You might look to use some of your grant funds to help get more points in the future. So there, again, we're really happy to sit down with you and listen to what you're hoping to accomplish, and then help you decide which threshold of points you think that you'd be able to get to. Next slide. Great, so I'm going to pass this back to Nancy. And again, just a reminder, as we're talking, if you have questions, feel free to plop them into the chat, but otherwise we'll hope to answer questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I wanted to mention one other grant that is kind of a quiet in the program, and it's a Disadvantaged Communities bonus grant. So if your municipality earns a grant, a points-based grant, then they have some of your municipality is located in what NYSERDA and the DEC designate as a disadvantaged community. They have a map, and we can forward that map to you. And your project that you are applying for your to use the grant money for is going to have an impact in that disadvantaged community area. Then you can apply for an extra $10,000 in grant money. So that's something that's really, a great thing if you have one of those areas located in your community. But Clean Energy Communities has been very, very popular, through the first round. 600 plus communities throughout the state have participated. And about half of those have actually already earned CEC designation. So that's why NYSERDA re-upped the program and refunded it. And we'd like to just highlight one community that was a real rock star in round one. Ann Heidenreich is from the Canton Sustainability Community. That's the village of Canton, and she is the chair, and I'd like to introduce her now. And Lexi, why don't you move on to the next slide, and if Ann can be unmuted and
okay,
hear from Ann. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking me to do this, and thank you for a good presentation. I'm pretty excited about what we can do with the second round at this point. I was not actually a part of the Canton Sustainability Committee when this first when most of the first round took place, but in the first round we completed 4 actions: energy code, enforcement training, benchmarking. We did a very successful Solarize Canton campaign. I think we were able to install, or the committee was able to, with the campaign, install more than 24 home residential solar systems, and then the unified solar permit. We earned $100,000 in grant funding, which went to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant, to change out old blowers for new electric blowers, which have significantly reduced the energy bill and greenhouse gas emissions. So we have and we have a number of projects on the table. The EV, we have already installed 2 EV charging stations. We are en route to completing our Climate Smart Communities certification. Hopefully that will happen fairly soon. We are also well en route to a community choice aggregation. There have been several presentations to the board, and we are working with an expert now to decide which company, but we're definitely going to go ahead with that. We're also definitely going to go ahead with streetlight conversion to LEDs, working with National Grid. We've decided to go with the National Grid ownership. And we have a solar array that powers in the village, that powers 90% of our municipal load. So things are, I think we'll move quickly to getting some more points, which is exciting. One of the things that Jen asked me to talk to you about is our sustainability committee. The village and town, the municipality, in 2014 created a community action plan. And as a part of that, they designated or requested or specified that sustainability committee be created to work with the village as an advisory committee that helps with a number of things that networking with experts, pointing out areas that of concern, evaluating the projects that the village is undertaking in terms of the environment. And one of the things that we did also was the Green Living Fair, which was very successful. And we were all set to do that again. The first one was in 2019. We were all set to do it again last April. And of course it didn't happen because of the COVID, but we will begin doing that again. It's a great way of introducing people in our community to all the opportunities we have for reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and saving money and improving development, so our economic development. So that's what I have to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Anne.
I also just as Klaus Prum, are you here, Klaus?
He may not be unmuted.
Oh,
Lexi, can you check if Klaus is on the list and you can unmute him? Or maybe I can do that.
I think I'm unmuted.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, hi. I could add a couple things. We're working on getting several more EV chargers. Our next village police car is going to be a plug-in hybrid. We're working on our county public bus system and trying to get the next bus to be an EV bus. And in the future, hope to get some school buses to be EV school buses. So those are all things we're sort of in the works. And as you've already mentioned, CCA is well in the works. We're going to bring that up at the next village board meeting and hoping to get the enabling legislation passed for that. So we've got lots of stuff in the works.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Anne and Klaus. The Village of Canton, as you can see, they're very fortunate to have dedicated community members to make up their sustainability committee. And we have a few municipalities in the North Country also like that. The town of Keene is represented on this call, and I know they also have a wonderful volunteer clean energy team that does just lots of good stuff for their community. Lots of municipalities don't have that resource, and that's why we as our clean energy communities are there to help you. We can't do as much as a whole team of volunteers, but we can certainly help you navigate the program. And it's wonderful to know what you can do by looking at what some of our leadership communities have already done. So this last slide is really just to point out NYSERDA's website. The nyserda.ny.gov/CEC is a great resource. There's tons of information there. We'll be sending you that website link afterwards, so you don't have to write it down, but it has the guidance document, which is kind of like the Bible for how this program works. It has all the toolkits. It's evolving and constantly being updated, so it's really worth visiting. And next slide is our contact information. I am generally covering Clinton, Essex, and Hamilton counties, and Jennifer is generally covering Franklin, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties. Our new hire, who's will hopefully come on soon. We can't wait till they are with us. We'll be focusing in Jefferson and parts of St. Lawrence counties. That's how we're breaking it down. But really, you can contact either of us anytime, and we'll direct you to the right person. You have our emails. You have our phone numbers and our extensions. We're all working from home, but we are pretty responsive to phone messages. And we welcome meeting with you when you're ready to figure out how to navigate this program. So that ends our formal presentation. We invite questions. If you'd like to enter any into the chat, this is a good time to do so. I mean, we're not that many people, so if you would prefer to unmute, I guess it looks like you already are unmuted. So if you'd like to ask your questions verbally, please do so. We're not so many people here, so it shouldn't be too unwieldy. So does anybody have any questions?
So it looks like Carolyn asked one in the chat, Nancy.
Oh, I missed it, so the chat didn't pop up. Let's see. Carolyn, hi Carolyn.
Hi Nancy, hi Jen.
Do you want me to read your question, Carolyn, or you want to ask it since you're?
Either way, so Keene is a CEC community. We completed 4 high impact action items, and we've done more beyond the 4 that are now required. So I was just wondering how the new program interfaces with the old as far as points and the high impact action items that were already completed or ones that we've gone beyond the 4.
Sure. Well, so if you've done actions in round 1, you will be awarded points for those actions, you know, with certain stipulations, like if you did the energy code training in the first round, you don't get points in second round. The NYSERDA wants to see your code officer complete another training, since the code is different than it was, you know, several years ago. They wanted to see you do another training to get those points. Also, if you, things like the EV charging station, if you installed an EV charging station and submitted for the action in round 1, you'll get 100 points. But you can still get more points by installing another EV charging station in the second round. It's a little varied, but for the most part, if you did an action in first round, you'll get credit and points to go for the second round. The designation grants, you won't get another one of those. Once you've been designated, you've been designated. So only new communities that are designated in the leadership round get that $5,000 grant.
Yeah. Okay, so I can follow up with you on specificity.
Yes, definitely. In fact, the town of Keene has already scheduled a meeting with me with some of your committee members, or already got one going. So hopefully you'll be there. Any other questions? Oh, Anne, I see you're talking, Anne, but you're muted.
Okay. There were 3 campaigns for the campaign grant, 3 areas that we could undertake campaigns in. One, I think, was the CCA. What were those 3? Jen, yeah. Jen gave that slide presentation, but.
And I missed one too, so there's actually 4, but yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
There are different community campaigns. One is community solar. So not rooftop, not the solarize, that's what Jen mentioned, but specifically for community solar.
Yeah.
There's also clean heating and cooling technologies, a campaign for that, as well as energy efficiency.
Okay, because that wasn't mentioned. And if we did a campaign for the $60,000, I think was the amount of money, to promote energy efficiency, would that count?
You could do a campaign to promote energy efficiency. If you were just doing it for the village of Canton, you would only receive a $5,000 action grant. The larger grants are for the larger communities. And in fact, it would be $15,000 for doing one campaign. If you can do up to 4 community campaigns per municipality. And if it was a large municipality that gets $15,000 for each action grant, they could get, times 4 would be $60,000, right? So
okay. So we need specifics on that. I'll be in touch with you about that. I think we could do a couple of campaigns. I just need to know exactly what qualifies.
Excellent. There's also a community campaign for electric vehicles to promote purchasing and leasing EVs. And the other one is for demand response, like smart thermostats and battery storage. So there are other types of community campaigns, and we can help you.
Yeah.
As you consider those.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more. Does ANCA, the energy coordinators, help with CSC?
We can help you somewhat with climate smart communities. We can't necessarily attend every meeting and walk you through every step, but we can certainly help you get going. And we have a few communities that are active in climate smart communities already in the region, and they're a good resource in themselves.
Yeah, Saranac Lake is very, fairly near to us, and we're certainly aware of that.
And of course, the Village of Canton and Lewis County has begun that going down that road as well. So that's pretty exciting. It's a lot to take on, but when you have a volunteer group, in your community, that it's a great thing to be able to do, and it really shows leadership and planning for reducing your greenhouse gas reductions. It's pretty exciting, but it's complex. Anything else to add on that, Jen?
No, that was good.
I can ask one more question. Benchmarking. We did our original benchmarking. Do you have technical help to update that?
Oh, well, we can work with you, to whoever entered the information the first time around, we can work with you to help update, keep that information updated. We don't necessarily have the staff to go through, all your bills and enter them into the portfolio manager website. There are some techniques to use, utilities to directly download information from the utilities and then populate the website, and we can work with you to do that. And that's a lot easier that way.
Thank you.
So does that answer your question? There are, in benchmarking, they have some different steps now. To earn, I believe it's 100 points, the municipality just needs to pass a resolution saying you're going to benchmark, and then set up, and lots of times it's us helping you to set up the EPA website to and build your building profiles, to set up your municipal kind of account through Portfolio Manager. Then another action within benchmarking is to actually have at least 2 years worth of data entered, and then link your account to NYSERDA so that they can see what you're doing, that you're constantly updating it, and then you get another action that way, and that's another 200 points. So for smaller communities, because I know on this call there are some smaller communities. I know the town of North Hudson is not our biggest population in the North Country, and the actions like benchmarking, like the code training, they're not very hard to accomplish. It doesn't cost any money, and it's an action that you can take that can have a benefit to your community, that can get you through the program. You don't have to reach all the way to 5,000 points to be, to get a reward from the program. Those designation grants are not hard to get, and that gets you $5,000 that you can then use to do something clean. It has to be used for a clean energy project of some sort, but it gets you $5,000 to be used in a way that you see would benefit for your community.
I did want to quickly add with climate smart communities. It hasn't happened yet, but there has been a lot of talk about the DEC providing technical assistance by way of something similar to Nancy and I. So we keep hearing that that's coming. So we hope that will actually emerge, because it is a pretty heavy lift, but it also, with the right people on board, can be incredibly rewarding, as exampled in the village of Saranac Lake. So what we could offer is connections to other communities that are further down the pathway with the process as well.
All right. Any other burning questions, because we really encourage you to reach out to us. Lexi will be sending an email that has our contact information if you don't already have that. And, you know, we're happy to meet with you whenever you're ready for it and ready to tackle some, you know, some actions. And we look forward to it. We're here for the next, like I said, this whole program is here to stay for about 5 years, until the money runs out. And, you know, it's not going to run out that quick. There's lots of money to be earned. So thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful day. It's a nice sunny day here in Vermontville, and enjoy the sunny winter.
A little cold, Nancy.
It is a little cold, but you know, hey, it's winter.
Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks everybody for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.